Very good afternoon from Singapore. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you very much for joining the NBS Knowledge Lab webinar today. So this is a series of webinars provided by Nanyang Business School, or NBS, at NTU, Singapore. We aim to create a knowledge sharing platform by hosting the panel discussion with industry and academic leaders on a bi-monthly basis. Please note that the webinar will be recorded for educational, informational, and marketing purposes at NBS. Today, we have a very exciting topic on digital transformation and GenAI. I know it's in everybody's mind. As GenAI is moving fast from the news headlines to real-world applications, it has been transforming a lot of industries. So it's very important for us from the business school to think and discuss the opportunities and challenges of using GenAI to transform business models across different industries. So that will be the next wave of digital transformation theme. We are very happy today to have a distinguished panel of industry experts from different sectors. They are from healthcare, they are from renewable energy, they are from tech sectors. I'm sure we all will have a wonderful conversation with them. All of these sectors, as you know, are on the edge of using GenAI. They are experiencing fast digital transformation in recent years. Without further ado, let me start by introducing each of the panelists to you. The first panelist we have here today is Mr. Koh Hau Tek. Hau Tek is the Chief Medical Officer and co-founder of GWS Medica in Jakarta, Indonesia, where he oversees the development and operation of medical centers. Another panelist we have today is Mr. Lawrence Wu. Lawrence is the Chief Financial Officer and co-founder of EDPR APAC with a long experience in renewable energy and sustainability. Of course, he was also involved in investment banking, corporate finance, many different areas. And we also have our last panelist, Ms. Elva Zou. Elva is currently the head of strategy and market intelligence at Gojek, but she had a lot of leadership roles at many other tech companies as well, such as Grab and Uber in the past. She's also involved in the renewable energy sectors in the past as well. So a very warm welcome to all the panelists. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and insights from different industry backgrounds with us today. Without further ado, I will suggest us to move into today's panel discussion. And for the audiences, if you have any questions you would like to ask our panelists, please type your questions in the Q&A button on your screen. And then our colleagues at NBS will collect the questions. We will select some questions to address in the end of the webinar as well. All right, let's get started with the first question. First, let's think of the strategic importance of GenAI in terms of digital transformation. Has been discussed a lot in recent years. A lot of business leaders are thinking through how GenAI maybe transform the business models in their industry. But how important GenAI is relative to other technologies? What will be the role of GenAI today in driving the digital transformation in each of these industries? So that will be my first question. Maybe we start with Elva. In the tech sector, we know a lot of companies are running digital business model. What will be your take in terms of the role of GenAI in supporting developing new digital business models in the tech sector?
Yeah, thanks so much for the very warm welcome and introduction. So hello to everybody. But basically answering your question, I think coming from a tech sector, we love to look at data, love to look at numbers. So I was just reading this McKinsey report talking about, I think almost 80% of companies are currently using AI as their daily businesses, and about 50% fully integrate AI in their strategy. So I think the brief takeaway is it's no longer a optional tool. It shall be part of the basic infra. So as part of the tech companies, actually, there's a lot of digital tech that we have been traditionally using. For example, big data analytics and automation, where a lot of other enterprises are using that as well. But I think what AI this time make it different is just different speed and level of personalization and automation, and the ability to use it for slightly lower end, easier to entry, easier to leverage use cases, and slightly more sophisticated use cases. So perhaps I'll just give one brief example, and I would love to hear other panelists talk about it as well. Something very relatable. So during COVID, there's a lot of F&B restaurant owners have their business go digital and have the restaurants open on digital platform, for example, Grab, Gojek, and other platforms. And one of the challenges for many of the business owners, they don't have the budget to have amazing and appetizing photo of their food menu and combo of their drink menu. So you tend to go to the website and see a bunch of description, and then especially if it's in a foreign country, you get lost and don't know what to choose, and you jump to another restaurant. So what AI can do from leveraging its text to image capability, it can auto generate some food appetizing food menus, and as restaurant owner, you can choose, okay, this one represents my business well, and I will just use that to represent what I'm selling. So from a business perspective, definitely it is more informative and cost saving. And from user perspective, it's much better experience. You cross language barrier, you cross other barriers. So it's just one very simple day-to-day example that, GenAI is definitely in our daily life.
Thank you so much, Elva. Yeah, this is a very concrete example. We all use all kinds of digital platforms in our daily lives. As what you said, AI truly provide us a lot of personalized recommendations and services that's highly valuable to us. Lawrence, can we move to you? So what will be the role of GenAI in driving digital transformation in the renewable energy sector today?
Thank you, John. And again, likewise to what Elva said, thank you for having me today. A bit of context here. I represent EDP, which is Energy de Portugal. It's one of the energy utility companies in the world. While you say I co-founded it, actually I co-founded a company called Sunseap, which is also in the solar and the wind space, and it's been acquired by EDP since 2022. So for us, as the name implies, as an energy utility company, we generate more than 90% of our global energy from renewable sources. And this will be the wind power, 12 gigawatts, solar, hydro, and we supply this to not just the man on the street, but also industrial companies, as well as the big tech companies, the likes of the Amazon, Google, and Apple. So with that context, I think for us, the GenAI and other digital technologies has increasingly playing a more pivotal role in our organization. I will roughly describe and perhaps compartmentalize the content into three different segments. One is more of our internal and content creation. So we do adopt Copilot internally, which has access to all our internal information, which obviously is very confidential, but yet at the same time being able to harness what's publicly available out there in developing things like presentations, proposals, emails, research, and this is what I call the internal and content creation within the organization itself, which I think many of us are either starting to use or have already adopted it. The other piece is more related to my sector, which is more on the operational aspects. So things like, because we operate wind farms and solar farms, things like that. So there's the element of predictive maintenance as opposed to the more old school, which is scheduled maintenance, where you go down, you clean the panels, or you upkeep the wind turbines every 3 months. But this time around, it's more predictive. So it reduces our downtime by up to 50%. And in terms of our costs, it does also reduce by somewhere between 10 to 40%, depending on which asset we're talking about. So obviously, the older the asset, the more cost that we save, as opposed to, again, more the conventional maintenance. AI algorithms is also increasingly being used. Not that we are a financial trading hub, but we do trade in our energy electrons. So this can allow us to increase and enhance our trading profits still on the operational side. And last but not least, really is on the personalized customer experiences, things like where we personalize customer service, troubleshooting. And in Asia, particularly, we are more industrial in nature, but in Europe, actually, we have a big amount of retail customers. So that's where I think in terms of generative AI comes in a lot more handier, as opposed to big industrial assets, then we will put a man to it. And the third component, which is what we use, is really in the future and forecasting. So more on scientific discovery and simulation. What I mean by this is because as an energy player, we do look at things like demand response, load forecasting, and load meaning the load required from the energy from the buy side, which is your energy demand. So the guys that either operate big industrial parks, data centers, even your retail side, residential, looking at forecasting load, and then trying to match them with the supply of our intermittent energy generation sources, and also matching with your weather stations, right? Because we are not a dispatchable power station, unless we are using batteries. So we match these things to look at using AI for demand response. Of course, also a bit more backward is on the machine learning side, improving our accuracy. And last but not least, still on demand response is looking at demand patterns and see how we can help our clients reduce energy consumption, which is also another business model where we're not just making money off selling clean electrons, but we are also making money and saving the earth by helping clients reduce their energy demand. So it's really these multiple aspects of internal content creation, operational, and this part of scientific discovery and simulation, future forecasting that we are deploying generative AI for us now.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. So we can see from your description, the energy sector is very active in applying GenAI to improve their efficiency and also save a lot of cost. We do see a lot of strategic potential of using AI in this sector. Moving to the healthcare sector, Hau Tek, could you share with us your opinion in terms of the strategic role of GenAI in healthcare? Especially, in recent years, healthcare has been taking the lead in adopting a lot of new technologies, right? From the enterprise systems to EHR, electronic healthcare records. Why GenAI is particularly useful or important in healthcare, in your opinion?
Thank you, John, and for the invitation as well to be on this panel. I come from the healthcare services industry, John, all right? And the core services will be how to deliver clinical services to individual patients, right, and their families. So for GenAI coming in, as you pointed out very rightly, is that GenAI is on the cusp, right? Healthcare has been a traditional industry for many, many years, and we are right on the cusp of moving in towards a technology-driven transformation, right? And GenAI, I see that come in two areas. Number one will be from a shared services point of view, right? From IT, from human resources, from sales, from commercial services, etc. And on the other side will be the clinical services itself, which is going to move, in a way, move the needle. Back to the first part, is about increasing efficiency, about increasing productivity, right? For whether it's for HR, whether it's for IT services, and etc. But on the second part is where things are going to change quite dramatically. What I see, right, for the industry, and I can, you can even see it online nowadays. For example, in Asia, I'm now currently in China for a trip, and AI and robotics over here is exploding, right, in China. And there is one example, right? Tsinghua University has an agent AI hospital already set up. And Tsinghua is in Beijing, right? But they have set up the hospital as a pilot in Shanghai. So a typical traditional hospital can see about 3,000 patients a day. Of course, non-procedural type of cases. While with the agent AI hospital with Tsinghua University, it can see 10,000 patients a day. That's like more than 3 times in terms of the efficiency and productivity. I do not think they have reached the point yet, right, of taking over procedural clinical services. However, those who are like internal medicine, general consultations, family medicine, these are already starting to change, right? And have been able to be, AI is able to take over some of the roles with oversight from human doctors. So this is a big change. So should this happen more and more over the next 5 years, there will be a big change in terms of number of medical students that will have to hire or to train and then to hire as doctors in the different countries, a big difference. Number 2 part on this is about R&D, about research and development. For research, AI can come in a very big way to increase the number of research papers that one can write, right? And in the clinical research phase in the industry, it does take a lot of time, right? Phase 1 to up to phase 4. This can be reduced significantly with GenAI by having GenAI ability to improve the statistical analysis that comes in, which takes a lot of time, right? And also in terms of being able to analyze what are the areas of need that require the research to happen. So this is another part which I see that there is going to be a big push into the industry, and that will change the whole healthcare services landscape, right? Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks, Hau Tek. Thank you for providing us the overview of the big changes happening with use of AI in the healthcare sector. If I try to, push the question a bit further from the company's perspective, how can we create a competitive advantage by using GenAI to digitally transform our business model? Of course, we discussed some possibilities that AI may replace human, especially as what you mentioned in Hau Tek, in the healthcare sector. Could you take from there to give us some tips based on some use cases in your mind in terms of, as a healthcare organization, how can you try to take advantage of these technological changes in order to create a competitive advantage in your industry to become the leading organization?
Yeah, thanks, John. This, in terms of being able to do non-procedural specialties, consultations, I think that will greatly improve the efficiency and productivity of the clinical services delivery. For example, right, say internal medicine, non-procedural, even if you say, for example, cardiology. Say cardiology, a patient who comes in and sees a cardiologist, but doesn't require procedure. AI can replace that. However, that will still require a human cardiologist to oversee that, of course, yeah, and to sign off, because liability is there. Being responsible for the patient is still there. It cannot be just left open to an AI system. The limitations will be on the procedural part, right? And that's where I think there's a lot of progress, right, trying to be made in the procedural parts. And how can, say, a robot make a difference, right, to improving productivity for a hospital, right? For example, to do a catheterization of the heart, and to put a stent, and to do a ballooning of the cardiac vessels. That will take some time, because every single patient is a bit different, right? And but there will be progress. I'm pretty sure with a lot more data coming on board, this will happen for more standard procedures, right? Combining GenAI with robotics to be able to do, and that will be the next phase. And I think that will be a very interesting time. And it will change. It will change the whole medical landscape.
I see. Thank you so much, Hau Tek. Yeah, so you provide us a lot of interesting thoughts in terms of the evolving competitive landscape in healthcare with the emerging use of AI. So it seems we're living in the golden age to see all of those changes in the upcoming years. Lawrence, you just mentioned several strategic potential of using GenAI to improve efficiency, save cost in renewable energy sector. Could you talk more about the best practice in your mind in terms of how the energy company can create competitive advantage in the market by using GenAI?
Sure, John. Again, going back to what I described earlier, what we are doing, at least in the energy space, the 3-4 different components. One, really automating more complex workflows so that we can really free up or augment human element for more strategic tasks. Second is to use more intelligent data systems to enhance our decision making, because in terms of decision making, whether we deploy 1 megawatt there, 1 gigawatt here, there's a synthesis required of a lot of different sets of data, and I think generative AI definitely helps in that. What we want to do also is accelerate innovation in the way we manage our assets and our customer experiences. A bit different from the medical side, I suppose, because we are more of an industrial player. So sometimes it can be commoditized. So we definitely need that level of precision in terms of our weather forecasting, the way we manage our assets. So every single cent, and I've been told or at least I've been told by my colleagues, that sometimes on a unit cost basis, 1 cent saved can tantamount to multiples of millions because of the big infrastructure assets that we have to build on here. And finally is to create more sort of a proprietary advantages by leveraging on internal data for more so for our needs. Over the course of this year, last year, and of course the next few years, we have a group of priorities, and I'm happy to give specific examples of how we are deploying it. Mentioned earlier, precision weather and trading. That's where I think, as opposed to reliance on humans, which is still as an oversight purely, generative AI helps in that one. Our asset performance and our remote operations, because very often these assets are built, even in Singapore, when we say I have 400-500 megawatt worth of assets, and each megawatt is about 1 hectare space. You look around Singapore and say, where is Lawrence talking about? I don't see any solar, but it's all in remote areas and on rooftops, right? So as opposed to making every worker climb up the rooftop to check, sometimes these generative AI and data managing helps in that. Our engineering and capex allocation, although it's been said sometimes it can be commoditized, but increasingly solar systems, when you hybridize them with batteries or you combine them with hydropower or not wind power, it becomes increasingly complex how you balance the AC/DC ratios in order to optimize the amount of capex. So again, generative AI, it comes into play. I mentioned earlier customer experiences, reducing of our cost to serve, primarily a bit more on the retail side, which we do a little bit, but not a lot. But in Europe, we do a lot of retail customers. So generative AI comes into play. And to a certain extent, our hyper automation in terms of our operations. So I've got quite a few examples, but I'll just list out as one, which is an internal program we call Mind for EDP. It is an internal generative AI co-pilot assistant. It's compliant, obviously, and it's safe for use for our workforce, but it's an internal tool to support our daily tasks, to enhance our work productivity, so that again we can free up employees for more value-added activities. And the amazing thing about this one is that unlike the ChatGPTs, unlike the Groks, which I'm quite sure many of us use, we developed this tool by leveraging off the existing technologies that we have, as well as what the market has, but also combining it with our internal data, which again, I think on the governance side is obviously important. So it leverages off internal data and the history of internal data plus market data and harnesses the entire this global set of data, but yet still protecting data governance of our internal systems in order to support our day-to-day work. And it's been absolutely, it's a lifesaver. I wouldn't know what to do without it.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Elva, so back to the tech sector. Tech companies are leading the development application of GenAI. They have been creating a lot of competitive advantage across different, I would say, industries by using GenAI. What will be your observations in this sector in terms of how to create a competitive advantage in the marketplace by using GenAI?
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. There's so much opportunities that a lot of organizations, including ours, are already leveraging internal tools such as coming up with creatives in a much more efficient manner, and then have a list of leads for the sales team to target in a much more automated manner. Externally, there's a lot of application as well. Perhaps I will just use another very specific and relatable example to explain, how problem statement was being addressed as the technology evolved. So just using ride hailing as an example, in the old days, I remember there was a case where I was in Tuas. For those who don't know, it's in the very extreme west corner of Singapore, attending offline events, and it was after hours. I couldn't get a taxi to go home, panicking. So when ride-hailing companies come into the picture, it was life-changing. There's such pricing mechanism, and based on demand and supply, I would be very happy to pay more in order to get out of the island and be able to get home safely. So back then, it was amazing. However, it's still relatively reactive. So drivers may not be actually in that region, and we still have to, as a user, we still have to wait either for a long time or pay way extra. Not sure if many of you remember the days where we can see like 3x, 4x pricing, which was a little bit of pushing the boundary. So I think today we can do it much more differently. We can look at dynamic pricing based on traffic conditions, weather conditions. For example, if it's going to rain, I integrate with weather data, and then we can already predict the demand will go up, and how do we maneuver supply so that we can have a better matching. And then driver behavior, road conditions, and ETA estimation, so that we can better kind of distribute the supply, i.e. where drivers should be, and then better match with end users. For marketplace, it's all about balancing supply and demand. From an end user perspective, it will be better experience and hopefully cheaper price. From a driver perspective, hopefully with better efficiency and better matching, i.e. lower downtime, their earning would go up as well. So there is definitely opportunity for the platform to kind of cover all parties' interests by leveraging technologies such as AI.
Thank you so much, Eva. I do see, for ride-sharing platforms, the business model is deeply embedded and supported by GenAI. The dynamic pricing, I think, is a good example to show that. So it's not only helping the company create more business value, but also provide a lot of social value to customers, as you addressed. Okay, so we discussed quite several different, best practices across industry sectors, and you give us quite concrete use cases as well across different contexts. A couple of audiences have sent in the questions all asking about the challenges of using GenAI in today's business operations. We haven't covered that yet. Maybe we can, quickly switch to the challenges side for now to briefly talk about in different industry sectors, what may be the key challenges that you observed when adopting using GenAI to transform the business model. Lawrence, can we start with you to talk about energy sector first?
Yeah, sure, John. But before I start, I just wanted to reciprocate with Elva's comment earlier on search pricing. Depending on which consumer you're referring to, sometimes it's met with negative or rather sometimes positive feedback, right? And I look forward, actually, I have the mind to develop a Trafalgar of between Grab, Uber, ComfortDelGro, and Gojek, of course, to get me the best pricing at any one point in time, which is, I think, a lot of consumers do nowadays with the multiple platforms. But anyway, in terms of the challenges, I think not too dissimilar to the industries of our panelists here, and perhaps in particular with Hau Tek, in terms of privacy concerns, data security, because energy is heavily regulated. Not to say transport is not, but energy is heavily regulated, similar to medical. And then the other similarity, of course, with Elva's side is consumer data, which exists significantly in Europe, which without my colleagues hearing here, my Europe counterparts, Europe is by far, I think, one of the heaviest regulated in terms of data security, consumer data and whatnot. So those are some challenges in there. But having said that, I think there are opportunities for us in highly regulated industries like ours. So really, in terms of combining our internal tools, external tools, having clear governance procedures, and of course, employee training, that's extremely important. So we can leverage off and maximize the full opportunities that generative AI gives us, but yet do it in a very responsible way. So as regulations evolve, and regulations will evolve in different aspects depending on which market, which country, which continent, early alignment with our frameworks is important. Of course, we start with the EU side, and then it does trickle down to Asia Pacific. It does look at how do we align with different regulations on the US side, because we operate in these markets. And I mentioned before, Mine for EDP, it is not an open source software. It's actually closed. It's a closed loop. So we can protect our data internally, which again, that's extremely important. So policies and training is where I'll leave off in terms of tackling these challenges, right? We do have strict usage policies. So we can't share clearly non-public or personal data with public. And there's a whole lot of governance and training that we provide to the employees in terms of how we adopt and use this generative AI. I'll share this more of a private humor. Back in the days before we actually started rolling out all this, we had different types of generative AI and transcription tools already available, but it's not yet signed off by the company. So I use one, which is to record senior management meetings so that I can go back and follow up on things that needs to be done. And it was rejected as in, why is Lawrence using such tools to record? And in the end, I got admitted into a sandbox to co-develop from a user interface perspective, the means of deploying Copilot for the rest of the organization. So a bit of a negative, but having a bit of a positive outcome at the end.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Hau Tek, maybe we move to healthcare sector now. As Lawrence stressed, is also highly regulated with sensitive, patient data. What are the key challenges you are facing, and what may be some good ways to overcome those challenges in the healthcare sector? Hau Tek, I think you are muted.
Right. Yeah, I echo what Lawrence has said about being a highly regulated industry, right? And it's not just in Singapore, but it's across the world. Where I'm calling in from now is from China, and I cannot access like WhatsApp, I cannot access Google and Gmail and so on and so forth, Facebook, Instagram. These patient data is very important for many countries, for most countries, if not all. And the patient data, if it's leaked, it's going to cause a lot of problems, right? So, and also the medical industry is such that confidentiality is critical and key for everyone, right? Now, the challenges that I've faced so far, right, in Indonesia, is to be able to adopt an AI system in Indonesia is very difficult because right now, Indonesia does not have enough in terms of technology and data to develop its own AI system, right? And if an organization within Indonesia is to adopt a system from outside of Indonesia, where is the database going to be kept? Right? Who is going to keep the data? Is it going to be, it has to be a G2G arrangement or somehow, right? And there will be a lot of questions about, what happens if geopolitically the two countries not going to be, happy with each other at a certain point in time. And that is the main challenge for Indonesia. For the other countries, what I can see now is that those countries which are a bit more open, right? Like, for example, like Singapore, right? Which is an open, much more open country, will be able to adopt AI systems into healthcare much faster. And the population is also a lot quicker, right, in being able to adapt to a new system. In China over here, because it is large, right, there is not much need for populations within China to go outside to source for a new AI system. They can develop it themselves. It's internal sourcing. And there's so much data already available. That's why they already rolled it out, right, in terms of core clinical services. And I'm pretty sure there are also other areas that they are looking at and developing very quickly. So there is not much impetus, right, for Chinese AI companies to really go beyond its borders at this point in time. Maybe the next few years, perhaps, but at this point, no. I spoke to Tsinghua University. They are like, well, they have a lot of problems they have to solve on their own anyway, right, within the country. Why is there a need for them to export technology outside of China? So for me, these will be the main challenges. The data, where is it going to be held? And which are the countries that will be more accepting of using AI for healthcare?
Thank you so much, Hau Tek. Elva, so for companies in tech industries, what are the key challenges? I know you're facing a lot of challenges. Could you pick some, key challenges and let us know what may be the best possible way to handle them?
Yeah, well, as a nerd myself, I'm really excited about challenges and problem statements. So definitely, yes, AI learns really, really fast and gets powerful very fast as well. So guardrails is a must. And one thing that we at tech sector love to joke about, we're building something new, is that we build a rocket ship while flying it and while figuring out, learn more about what we are building and where we're going. So it feels like AI is just another one of that, but at much bigger scale and stronger impact. There's a lot of exciting challenges to tackle, very important ones, starting with very basic, like hallucination, right? AI sometimes just give you very confident answer, which it has no idea what it's talking about. Even yesterday, I was just drafting something, it says 14th of October, brackets Monday. I'm like, no, 14th of October is Tuesday. Yes, you're right, it's Tuesday. So, well, if we actually don't really double check and make decision based on what we gather from AI, it can be quite dangerous in terms of what businesses and individuals are truly get out of AI. So data quality and hallucination is definitely one. And then I think, yeah, data privacy is another one as covered by Lawrence and Hau Tek. And also how decisions are being made transparency on that related to biasness, for example. So, for example, HR nowadays use AI to help with CV screening, and then some of the lending business, you use AI to help with which customers it offers its product to. As humans, we have biasness, and we train data accordingly, and as a result, there will be biasness as an output. So how do we provide better transparency on how AI help with decision augmentation? I think that's very important. And I think there was one panelist one audience were asking about being an undergrad, how to better prepare. So as part of this whole evolution, talents space is another huge and very meaningful challenge in terms of the talent gap, what kind of training we should provide to people like us, like we are midway in our career, in terms of change management and how do we learn fast and adapt fast. That's another very, very important and meaningful area to look at. And then related to Lauren's sector, one last point, related to Lauren's sector, this mega compute consumes so much energy. It's going to be limited by energy at one point, yeah? So how could Lawrence, your wind and solar farm better incorporate and get systems more efficient, and the energy consumption is another key challenge that's very, very interesting to look at.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Elva. Yeah, big tech requires big energy consumption as well. So this is another issue, but definitely it's an important factor when we think of how the technology will take us to, right? So how we can address not only the challenges we're facing today, but also tomorrow. I guess, sustainability is definitely something we do need to take into account as well when using AI. Moving forward, there are a couple of questions in the Q&A and also in my mind related to about the future of AI usage, especially GenAI. It can do a lot of things, create content, even automate a lot of operations, decision-making tasks. Do you think in your sector, in your specific industry context, GenAI in the near future will augment human employees to help them to be more efficient, or primarily replaced human? So you will observe a lot of occupations will disappear in your sector. And if so, what may be the best possible for us to think of to upskill the existing workforce in the sector to cope with these changes? Maybe we start with Elva. You want to share some of your thoughts along the line?
Yes, I'm slightly more conservative. I do have a sense of understanding what it means and how do I prepare people around me. And I do teach at university also, so how to help the next generation be better prepared. To answer your question, I do believe most, if not all, jobs will be changed. How it will be changed may be different, but it will be changed. So some of the repetitive rule-based tasks may be, disappearing. Doesn't really require human sitting there and doing repetitive tasks and prone to error. And benefit is that it allows human to focus more on complex issues, relationship building, and really bring an element of empathy into the equation. So that's the benefit. However, it's very understandable to really put ourselves in the next generation's shoes, or whoever feel, how am I going to stay relevant with this massive and rapid development? So I think that's a very great question for all of us to reflect on. I think that's also why I love about going back to university and mingle with the young and next generation of younger people, where they always remind me of it's so critical to keep upscaling ourselves, be open-minded, go just get our hands dirty and and learn about new technologies and how to leverage them. So from a business and from personal perspective, I do see it's a double-edged sword. It brings benefits, but also remind us how can we be better prepared for future.
All right, thank you so much, Eva. Hau Tek, in healthcare, do you foresee more doctors, nurses, they will lose their job in the future because of GenAI? How should they, transform their skills for the future?
Yes, John. Yeah, I agree with Elva. There's going to be quite a big change in the number of the types of jobs that's going to be available in healthcare. For nurses, perhaps not yet in the, as you mentioned, like the very short term, because nurses still have a lot of like physical, quite a bit of physical work. But for non-procedural doctors, that is going to have to change, and it will come in. Is how say GenAI comes in and will eventually take over some of these doctors' roles, right, in generating treatment plans for patients, and then follow up treatment plans for patients who have already had certain like chronic diseases, for example, like diabetes, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, and these are very standard chronic diseases. This will be replaced, unfortunately, and it is a very traditional industry. There will be quite a lot of difficulties in terms of like, having the doctor associations being able to accept that facts and reality that's going to happen. But it will happen. Radiologists, for example, even like 6 years ago, right, even before the advent of GenAI, even with big data, there was a competition between a machine learning AI system at that time. This was like in 2016, 2017, right, in China, versus top radiologists in China, and the AI system won. So to interpret basic images in medical radiology. So where the question comes up, that where do these radiologists, what are they still relevant? So along the way, and now with GenAI and the advent of agents, AI hospitals, and so on, it's going to just change the whole landscape. And what I see is the procedurists will be the one that will still carry on to do, at least for the near term, to do what they need to do, including the nurses, at least for now, until more robotics come in, right? And that's where the next phase will come in, with GenAI plus robotics as a combination. And then in the next step, we'll be using 5G, 6G services to do procedures across borders, across a long distance. Well, there was like, even the last 2 to 3 years, there have been procedures done between Beijing and Hainan, right? Patient is in Beijing, an operating surgeon was in Hainan, and has done remote surgery across about 3,000 kilometers. And the lag time was so minimal to the point where it's almost live surgery, and was successful. Of course, this was a military hospital, right, in China, but it can be rolled out into civilian hospitals and civilian usage as well. And I'm pretty sure by now, this is another 2 or 3 years later, it's going to be even better. Combining that with automation and Gen AI in healthcare is going to move the needle significantly. And I do think those who are still very traditional and not being able to think what's going to happen, they are going to be falling behind. So I'm just being very honest about this, and we really need to be looking at what is the next frontier in medicine, and not just keep holding on to conservative attitudes about, it has to be a human to human. There are human doctors, and there are also AI doctors now who can show empathy, who can do almost as much as what a human doctor can do. So we have to move forward in this. It is important. Those going into healthcare must be able to see the future, or at least partially the future of what's going to happen, so that they can position themselves well. And in the university, the teachers, whether it's medicine or technology, must be able to imbue in their students this vision that what will happen, and to prepare them for what is definitely going to come.
Thank you so much, Hau Tek. As you remind us, we do need to all be forward-looking to think through what may be the possible changes and how to adjust that across different sectors, including higher education. I totally agree with you. Lawrence, moving to the energy sector, right? This sector is often giving us the impression that it's capital intensive, labor intensive, given that you're also increasingly using AI to transform production processes and the way of doing business. What will be the future of the industry? Will a lot of people lose their job in the sector? How can we manage the existing workforce in the future?
Okay, as a corporate, I need to start with this. Our vision here at EDP is really to augment human capabilities, upskill human capabilities, and certainly not to replace them, especially in the space of GenAI. So in this case, what we're really doing here is, as I described earlier, automating complex workflows so that we can free up the human element to just take on a bit more of the strategic task that's in front of us, right? And to a big extent, it also enhances our decision making in terms of synthesis of data, information, and last but not least is to accelerate innovation in our asset management. Now, in each of these, clearly training and upskilling is extremely important. I think Elva already mentioned that to a big extent. But on the flip side, what I will emphasize is that the ideas of how to deploy GenAI, or whether GenAI can help in certain strategic tasks or even mundane tasks, these ideas are not coming from our digital unit, which in layman's terms is our information technology. These are coming from the front office, the middle office, the people that are doing these tasks, and they are saying that I want to be able to be more efficient, more effective in my task, and I think I have these ideas or problem statements help me to resolve it. So on one hand, these ideas are generated in-house and from the very people that we think they are worried about getting replaced. But the truth is that these guys are the ones that generate ideas, and they're taking it to the digital unit and to get together, collaborate towards a solution that may or may not involve GenAI. So to that extent, I think this process of generating new ideas, new products, new strategies, or new processes to do our daily tasks is somewhat mitigating the fear of the loss of jobs through the deployment of GenAI.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. So we do see, people have different perspectives on how AI may interact with human in the future, either augmented or a kind of replaceable. So that's a big question. Not only, industry leaders are thinking through, are exploring, but also academic leaders are debating. We don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, in this webinar to keep discussing those opportunities and challenges with regard to GenAI usage. But before we end this webinar, for our audiences, I would like to ask you if they want to know more about GenAI usage, digital transformation, future of AI, what may be the best possible examples in your mind? Could you give us a concrete, let's say, a role model in your mind? It could be, let's say, a fantastic leading company, an organization, or a person in your mind. Could be a good, AI leader, they could keep learning from. Can we have a quick round to just let us know your role model in mind as the AI leader? Maybe we start with Lawrence.
Sure. I don't have a particular tool or person in mind. In my mind, in terms of a role model for the use of GenAI, it has to be extremely holistic, right? Between, as I mentioned earlier, getting the staff body involved, prioritizing, identifying areas of ideas. So as an example, over the past, I think 18 months, we collected 130 ideas, we prioritized 25, and eventually we launched out 7 concrete steps of deploying GenAI in various parts of the business as the first wave. And then internally, we have our Micro EDP as an internal GenAI assistant tool. Then secondly is talking about, when I say holistic, I mean how do we leverage off opportunities? How do we take in those opportunities, those ideas, and how do we deploy them? Then, of course, there's the regulatory side and the privacy concerns, but yet still trying to be as innovative and opportunistic as we can. Creation of a GenAI sandbox internal, so that it's a safe environment for people to test it out. I give the example where I was one of the guinea pigs when we first developed Copilot internal for our internal use. Then alongside all that has to be augmented with training programs for our staff. While the ideas may come from certain parts of the staff body, but the rest of the staff body has to be trained on how to use this, how to enable them to be more effective and efficient. And finally, the governance aspects, right? On the usage of these tools and data. So to me, the role model has to be extremely holistic. Depending, of course, it all depends on the industry you're in, but holistic in terms of taking advantage opportunities out there. How do you roll them out? Creation of environments which are safe for people to play around and test it out. Then the staff body has to be upskilled and trained, and finally establishing, because it's data privacy and all that, establishing clear rules of governance of what can be done and what cannot be done.
Thank you, Lawrence. Hau Tek, who is the role model in your mind in terms of AI leaders?
Yeah, I think to keep it short, it will be Professor Wong Tianyin. Professor Wong Tianyin, born in Hong Kong, grew up in Singapore, and is Professor of Ophthalmology and now the Vice Chancellor of Tsinghua University School of Medicine. He has combined medicine with AI systems, and that is how this agent hospital for AI has happened over the last 1.5 years.
Oh,
Thank you.
I see. Interesting. Ivan, who's your role model?
I have a number. So probably caveat is definitely based on recency effect. I love watching podcasts, interviews while I get ready. So definitely Jensen from NVIDIA is someone I find really interesting to listen to. And then on the other hand, I do find my students from NTU so inspiring. There's one student group talking about use voice control augmented by AI to help elderly navigate digital worlds, block some of the scams, and then allow them to be hands-free and don't need to be, outdated because of they are unable to keep up with the digital kind of whole transformation. Everything is going digital. So yes, so from the big names to day-to-day, even everyone dialing in today during lunch hour, it's great to have this platform and interact with like-minded folks.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. So we can always learn from each other. Thank you so much. So because of time, we are approaching to the end of the webinar. Before you leave, please help to complete the feedback, which will be shown on the screen with a QR code. You can scan it and provide us the feedback, helping us to continue improving the webinars. Finally, a big thank you to all the distinguished panelists for sharing your wonderful insights and thoughts. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the audiences who joined us today. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.